Hello again, YouTube. I did intend to do this review in one take, one video, but owing to my tendency to ramble on about nothing in particular and dive off down the most bizarre tangents, I'm going to conclude it in this video. Now, I'm sure this is the component of Skylynx that most Transformers fans will be the more familiar with. The Lynx mode only ever appeared, I believe, in one of the third season of the Generation 1 cartoon episodes. It appeared in the rebirth of Optimus Prime quite bafflingly. I remember being rather confused by it when I was a kid, because up until that point you'd only ever seen Skylynx either in this mode, his very imaginatively named Dino Bird mode. Could have called it a pterodactyl or a dragon or a wyvern mode. Actually, that's what he looks like to me, like a wyvern. And for those who don't know, don't play D&D or anything like that, a wyvern is a sort of lesser species of dragon that only has 2 legs as opposed to the usual 4, and usually cannot breathe fire and whatnot. But yeah, I remember being rather baffled by the fact that in the Return of Optimus Prime you suddenly had this thing turning up, being referred to as Skylynx and talking with Skylynx's voice. It was rather strange. But anyway, that is the Dino Bird mode, and like the Lynx mode, it's absolutely stunning. It's rife with details, from the decals and sculpted onto the mould itself. I particularly love those huge Autobot symbols. I mean, I'm not an Autobot sympathiser, I'm really not. I was probably one of the only kids who was cheering and laughing when Optimus Prime got murdered in the movie. But even so, there is no denying how wonderful that is. I love those huge Autobot symbols. It also has a rather odd little detail there, which serves to convince me that this is indeed from another line as opposed to Transformers, because that doesn't serve any function. It's just a redundant detail, and Transformers from this era were not big on redundant details, let's put it that way. I particularly love the neck and head in this mode. It is, despite this kibble on it, which derives obviously from the shuttle, it is beautifully articulated. It moves in any which way you care to imagine. Also, he's got beautiful detail in his mouth. His mouth will open and close, and he has a little gun in there, which is very nice indeed. The tail is fantastic. It's not as articulated as it appears at first glance. The only bit that moves is the end and the fin at the very, very tip. But even so, it's beautiful. The way he's sculpted is very dynamic. He actually looks like he's about to dive down and attack a Decepticon unit or something, which is very, very nice indeed. That is a beautiful, beautiful mode. And I really cannot sing its praises enough. It's so incredibly playable, especially when you have the other part with it. I mean, this is added for value. It's 2 toys in 1, which I cannot tell you. If I was a kid, I would go absolutely insane over this toy. I really would. I'm going absolutely insane over it now, so you can only imagine. Right, and he does have one other mode. What I'm going to do now is combine him into his complete mode. And it's not difficult to do. All you do, fold up the Dino Bird's legs, take the Lynx, fold in its head, get rid of its tails, and you'll notice he's got 3 posts on his back, and the Dino Bird has 3 ports, obviously. All you do, push them together, make sure it's nice and tight, and my god, there we have Skylynx in his combined form. He is amazing. He is so incredibly huge. The only Transformers really that dwarf this guy, and the toys themselves do not, apart from Fortress Maximus, but in terms of relative scale, the only characters that are larger than this one are the city formers like Scorponok and Triptychon and Metroplex. But this toy is enormous, and that is added for bonus. I love huge toys. I really do. And he looks so intimidating. The colours go together so very well. I've only just noticed, actually, whilst I was thinking about how to do this review, all of the high-ranking Autobots are the same colour scheme, basically. Variations on the same colour scheme. It's the red, white, and blue American flag thing. And some of them have a wee bit of grey thrown in, like Fort Max. The only exception I can think of is Tattimusprime. Does anyone account him as a leader? Really? No, I don't think they do. But yes, all of the meaningful Autobot leaders from Generation 1 have this colour scheme. And it works very well. I mean, it looks beautiful on Skylynx. And also the walking mechanism functions in this mode as well, and is just as loud and irritating, which is nice. But there we are, Skylynx in his completed form. I cannot recommend this enough. If you're a Generation 1 fan, if you're a Transformers fan, if you're a toy fan, this is wonderful. It's a must-have, and he is rather expensive at the moment. If you buy the, as I did, the fully boxed Japanese reissue, it was about 50 quid. But you know what? I really don't care. The amount of play value I am going to get out of this, and just the joy of having him standing around in my Transformer collection, makes it more than worth it. He is a stunning example of everything that makes Generation 1 wonderful. Please check out the links in the sidebar. There are some absolutely wonderful Transformers reviews in there. And many thanks indeed to all of my new subscribers and the people who have been leaving lovely comments and sending me beautiful messages and whatnot. I'm much obliged. It's always wonderful to have the ego stroked a little bit. I've always thought, actually, I've always wanted the someone to pick up the Generation 1 cartoon where it left off after the rebirth. And you know, if that ever happened, then I want to play Skylynx. God damn it! I think I'd be very good as the voice of Skylynx. He was the only Transformer, actually, in the original Generation 1 cartoon that had, the only one I can think of anyway, that had a British accent. Of course, just to enhance his status as a bit of an arrogant and intellectual snob. So, yeah, if there's anyone out there, any casting talent who's, you know, thinking of doing the third season, another season of Transformers Generation 1, you know where to find me.